Okay, now we're going to look at subtracting negative numbers. Now here, this is actually an easier example than when the signs are different. So if we have -2, and if we consider this as a sign of 5, so -5, what you do is basically, it's very easy then. If the signs are the same, so we've got a negative here and a negative here, you just add them up. And you keep the sign. So so 5, so we just do basically 2 plus 5 is equal to 7, and we keep the sign, which is which, I mean, they've all got a negative here, so so the answer is -7, and that's it. So it's -2 take away 5 is equal to -7. I mean, what that's basically saying is you're at -2 on the number line, and you go to your left 5 places, which is -7. So I mean, if we look, I mean, looking at this, if the signs are the same, and you just add them up and you keep the sign, so what would happen if I did let's say -5 take away 2, would I get the same answer? So signs are the same. We've got -5 here and a -2. So 5 plus 2 is 7, and we keep the sign. Yeah, so it's -7. So yeah, we get the same answer. So it's -5 take away 2 is -7. Again, all that's saying is you're at -5 this time, and you move back, move to your left 2 places, and you come up to -7. So yeah, this is actually a lot, you know, a simpler one than when the signs aren't the same. I mean, basically, when we have something like this, 5 plus 2. Now, are the signs the same here? Yes, because the sign, what the sign of 5 is on the left-hand side. If there's nothing here, we assume it's positive. So that's positive, and that's positive. So 5 plus 2 is 7. So that's equal to 7, and we keep the sign. So I mean, that's it. I mean, this was a quick method of how to add and subtract without using the number line, and how to just quickly work them out. Okay, let's try a little something a bit more complicated, basically to especially reinforce what we've learned so far. How would we do something like this? -5 take away 3, add 2, add 5, take away 8. If you remember how we could basically juggle these terms around, let's bring the negatives on one side, the negative numbers on one side, and the positives on the other. Let's say, so my -5 take away 3. Remember, so here this is -8, so we can shift this up here, so that becomes take away 8. So we're left with +2 and +5. Basically the left hand side tells us, once we know what's on the left hand side, we can juggle these around in any order we like, as long as we know what's on the left hand side. I mean, we could have easily done -8. We could put -8 here, take away 5, take away 3, for example, or we could have put +2 here, +2 take away 5, take away 3, take away 8, add 5, for example. It's just knowing what's on the left hand side, and then we can just juggle them around in any order we like. Yeah, so remember how to do how to take away this lot. So here we can see that the signs are all the same for 5, 3 and 8. So basically, what do? When the signs are all the same, we just add them up. So 5 plus 3 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's basically 8 plus 8 is equal to 16. And we keep the sign, remember, and the sign is negative. So this evaluates to negative 16. So we've got negative 16 plus 2 plus 5. So I mean, what various ways we could do it. So what's a negative? So negative 16 plus 2. The signs are different. So basically, we take away the bigger value after we've done the absolute value. So that's 16 negative and 2. So it's basically 16 after the absolute value. So it's 16 take away 2, which is 14. So, and we keep the sign of the bigger, which was negative. I mean, this was explained in the previous example, so if you're still unsure, you can have a look back. So this bit evaluates to negative 14 plus 5. So again, we've got the signs are different. So we've got a negative and a positive. So we basically take away the bigger from the smaller after we've done the absolute value. So basically, so it's negative 14 absolute value and 5 absolute value becomes 14 and 5. So we take away the bigger from the smaller, so it's 14 take away 5, which is basically 9. So it's 9. So the answer is, and we keep the sign of the larger value, and we keep the sign of the larger value, so the answer is negative 9. And that's it. So that's it's just knowing. It's a good idea to rearrange these terms and get the negatives on one side, and then just follow the basic rules. If the signs are the same, you add them up. If they're different, you just take away. Yeah. So I mean, it's a good. I mean, this example is a good. It's good practice for things later on, like algebra and stuff like that. Here's another example. This one's written slightly differently, but I mean, as we explained previously, this should be no problem to work out. So we've got negative 3 add negative 2. So remember, when the signs are touching, when you see when you see something written like this, basically what you do is you see how the signs touch, and then you write down what the operator is going to be. So if a positive and a negative touch, remember they make a negative. So basically you rewrite this as negative 3 take away 2. And that's it. So we can work this out. I mean, simply, now the signs are the same. So we've got a negative and a negative. You just the signs are the same. You add them up. So it's 3, 4, and so it's 3. So it's 3 plus 2 is equal to 5. So and you keep the sign, which is obviously negative. So that's it. So the answer is yeah, it's minus 5. Now we come on to multiplying positive and negative numbers. Basically, this is very easy. We just follow this convention. So basically, like we had this diagram for adding and subtracting. Basically, now what happens is there's no touching of negative signs and positive signs there, because we've got operators clear here. It's a multiplier. But what happens is, what this says is, if we've got a negative number, say, and a negative number, so here's a negative number, and here's a negative number, negative 5 and negative 2, and if you multiply them together, they become a positive number. So the answer will be positive. And so here, this is a positive number multiplied by a negative number. So what happens if we multiply a positive number by a negative number? We get a negative number. So that's basically it. So there's no touching, but there is you know, the signs of the number will be clear. So it'll be -5, -2, and you just see what when you multiply them, are there two negatives, or is one of them a negative? So basically that's it. So if we do this example, so -5 multiplied by 2. So we've got a negative number and so there's no sign there, so that should be a positive. So we should know that's a positive. So a negative and a positive make a negative. So -5 times 2 is -10. What about this one? So we've got a positive number multiplied by a negative number. So it's a positive number multiplied by a negative number. Again, it's a negative number. Negative. So positive 5 times by -2 is again -10. So what about here? So here we've got a negative number, -5 times by -2. So we've got a negative number multiplied by a negative number, gives us a positive number. So -5 times by -2 is 10. Well, I mean, obviously we don't need to write that. So 10 on its own means positive 10. So that's it. So basically all you've got to remember is, if the signs are the same, so if you've got either two positives or two negative numbers, it's always going to be a positive. Always going to be a positive number when you multiply them. The quick way to remember is, if the signs are different, the answer is going to be negative. Otherwise, it's positive. So, if you see any difference in the signs, so there's a difference. That's a positive and that's a negative, and that's a negative and that's a positive. The answer is going to be negative, and that's it. Okay, let's have a quick example using money to demonstrate multiplying negative numbers. So imagine -5 times 4, which we know is -20. Let's say that's your fine. You're fined £5 over 4 months, and the total you owe, total that's deducted is 20. So it's a -20. But imagine if like that was a mistake, from the bank made a mistake or something like that. So they could say, sorry, we'll refund you. So it's -5. That was your fine, and they're undoing that over the 4 months. So it's a -4. It's just a way of thinking of about it. So -4 times -5. -5 is 20. It's a positive, so you're refunded back the money. So it's just an example of saying a negative times a negative is a positive. And here, this one was just like a negative times a positive is a negative. So yeah, just a quick sort of demonstration of how of an example of how what these negative multiplying negative and positive numbers might mean. Okay, when we're doing dividing, it's basically the same thing for multiplying negative numbers. The same rules. So negative and a negative number is a positive. Positive and a positive makes a positive, and negative and a positive makes a negative, and a positive and a negative makes a negative. So again, if the signs are different, you'll get a negative. If the signs are the same, you'll get a positive. So -10 divided by 2, so we've got different signs, so the answer is going to be a negative, so -5. Same again, 10 divided by -2 is -5, because that's a positive and that's a negative. Now this one, -10 negative 10 divided by negative 2. Now we've got a positive, now we've got a negative and a negative, so the signs are the same. We get a positive, so the answer is 5, positive 5. Now just one thing, because we're dividing, remember we can write them down. So this one, say, so 10 divided by negative 10, negative 10 divided by negative 2 is equal to 5. So we can write them down like fractions as well. So here so when you see a fraction like this, where the numerator is a negative and the denominator is a negative as well, basically the answer will be a positive. So yeah, just I mean, this is just a way of saying that, you know, the division is also like written down like this. So yeah, that's it. So basically we just it's a very simple and easy way to remember what this is. If the signs are the same, it's a positive. If the signs are different, it's going to be negative. Okay, let's have a very quick look at some examples that hopefully shouldn't, you know, cause any problems. What if we had negative 5 add 5? I mean, if you recall the methods that we were using, if the signs are different, then basically what you do is you take away after you found the absolute value. So let's see, the absolute value of negative 5 is 5, and the absolute value of 5 is just 5. So now, remember we said that you take away the larger from the smaller. Now because they're the same value, you can just take them away. So it's 5 take away. So the answer will be 5 take away 5, which is 0. And now, but because it's 0, the 0 doesn't have a sign. Obviously, we just leave it as 0. We don't look at the sign of the larger number, but we don't worry about that. So we just leave it as 0. The other one might be, well, how do we do 0 take away 5? I mean, this is so easy. You don't need to, you know, bother about. I mean, 0 doesn't have a sign, and the signs are different. And you could do it this way. Find the absolute values. For example, the absolute value is 0, 0, and negative 5 is 5. And you could take away the bigger from the smaller, which is 5 take away 0 is equal to 5, and you keep the sign of the bigger, which is negative. So the answer is negative 5. But I mean, all this is saying is that you're at 0 and you move to your left 5 places, which is negative 5. So yeah, this should be obvious. Again, another easy one: negative 5 take away 0. So you're at negative 5 and you move to your left 0 times. So you're at negative 5. So you're at negative 5. I mean, if you wanted to just analyze it using the methods we were looking at, the signs are the same. So you basically add them up. So 5 plus 0 is equal to 5, and you keep that sign, and you keep the sign, which is negative. So it's just negative 5. Yeah. So I mean, these were just some basic examples. The main point was here, if you have like the same number, negative 5 plus 5, for example. When you find the absolute values, you know, we were saying that you take away the bigger from the smaller, but here you can just take them away, and the answer will be 0, and you just leave it out like that. Okay, to conclude this video, we're very quickly going to talk about square roots. I mean, and in particular, you know, this kind of notation, the positive and the negative notation. Basically, we know that the square root of 16 is 4. We'll go into square roots later in a later video, but the square root of 16 is 4, basically. So 4 times 4 is 16. But remember from our study of negative numbers that negative 4 multiplied by negative 4 is also a positive number. It's also 16. So basically, this kind of notation here, you'll see a positive and a negative. What that's saying basically is that the square root, basically there's an answer that's going to be positive, or there's going to be an answer that's going to be negative. So when if you see this notation, you see a plus and a minus underneath. That means there's two answers. So there could be so there is an answer of positive, and there's an answer of negative. So that all that's saying is, all this notation is saying that there's two answers. There's 4 and there's a negative 4, because the square root has a positive and a negative answer. So yeah, so just continuing on with this notation, what would be something like I don't know, 5. What would say something like this mean? 5 plus and minus 3. So yeah, that means there's two possible roots. Basically, there's two possible ways you could do it. So you could say it's 5 plus 3, or it's 5 take away 3. So yeah, that's basically what this notation is saying. So basically, yeah, so we could have two answers to this. So 3, 5, 6, 7. So the answer could be 8. Answer could be 8, or the answer could be 2. So yeah, so that's when we see this positive and negative notation. It's basically saying there's two answers.